This video is for diagnosing striker related issues and how to repair them. The striker itself on these pistols, it will go a long time, but it is a wear part, so eventually you may need to replace it. So this is good information to know. Between the Gen 1, the X model, so that's the SAR9, which is Gen 1, the SAR9C, also Gen 1, the SAR9CX and X are your generation, I would call them 2-ish, and then you have your generation 3s and the SOCOM. Essentially, the slide and the striker mechanism is going to be the same in all of them, so we'll go with the more recent model, the generation 3 here. So first, check that the pistol is clear and devoid of all ammunition. We check the chamber, no cartridge there. We can then field strip our weapon. We put in a safe direction, pull the trigger to drop the striker, pull down the disassembly levers, and the slide will come forward, and we can remove it from the frame. We put the frame to the side, and we take the slide only. We're going to remove the recoil spring guide rod. We'll remove the barrel itself. I've got a handy dandy threaded one here. And we're going to observe the bottom of the slide. What we see here is we have this plunger, and that's your striker safety plunger. The trigger actually actuates this, and when it is in the up position, it allows the striker to move forward. The front of the breech face, seen here, has this rectangular hole, and we can see the firing pin, the striker, through it. On the bottom, we can see the striker, and this can move, but it locks up against this firing pin block safety plunger. So what we're going to need to do is depress the firing pin block safety plunger with our finger, and at this point we can actually push forward and backwards on the striker, and at the breech face side we can see the striker appear inside of it. Let's see if we can get a better view of that from the side here, and we can see the striker actually protrudes from the breech face. As long as we can see that striker protrude from the breech face, we know that the striker is in good shape. So if your striker is in good shape and you're still having issues, then you know you probably have a striker spring issue. There might be a problem with the striker spring. It might have failed on you, or perhaps it was just out of spec to begin with. So let's move on to the repair. To repair these, we just replace the whole striker. So what we see on the bottom of the slide here is this plastic sleeve. It's a cylinder with a cut down the center for the striker to travel through. The cylinder actually extends up into the back plate of the slide and is what retains the back plate of the slide. So we're going to have to push down on that sleeve, and you'll see here on video that the sleeve actually moves, and it actually pulls that tube out of the back plate, which is what retains that back plate. So we'll push down on it, we'll get the sleeve to move, and then we can cover this right side of the slide because there is a spring-loaded plunger that'll fly out. We can push it off with our thumb, the back plate. You can see that little plunger getting ready to shoot out. So I've captured it with my thumb. You can remove the back plate, remove the plunger and spring, and then the whole striker assembly itself comes out. Let's examine this. You can see on a healthy striker, it has a nice tip. It's not pointy, it's a blunt, flat tip, and that's what ignites your cartridge. And you've got your spring, the sleeve itself. We can get a better look at that cylinder and how it locks into the back plate to retain it. And the plunger as well also goes in this little divot in the back plate to help to retain it. When you buy these, it's just this whole assembly and you can drop it right in. On one with a broken striker tip, this will not be intact, or it will be broken off. You can see that it is not a sharp pointy tip, it is dull. If it was sharp, it would pierce the primer, allowing gas to escape into the breech face. We'll look that this is intact, that this is the actual face that the sear interacts with in the frame, and then we'll just have a good look at the spring, that it's all in order. But when you just buy a new one of these assemblies, it's basically just drop back in. So we take it, we do everything in the reverse. The striker goes in to the striker channel, we take the retaining plunger and spring, we insert it back into the slide where it came from, the hole on the right side, and we take the back plate and we just start it into its slot, and you see it's blocked by the striker channel. I like to take a tool, a pen cap works, but I will use a punch. It's what I'm most comfortable with. And we press down on the striker assembly, the plastic back part here. I'm going to use the bigger side, it's easier. And then we can start moving the back plate up over it. When we get to this plunger and spring, I surround it with my thumb and my index finger just to capture it in case it goes flying. And I take a punch, and I have used a pen to do this, but I recommend something flat bottom like a punch. And you want to push it in slowly and carefully down into a flush position and start to raise the back plate over it with your index finger. If it does fly away, your index finger and thumb will catch it. You want to do this in an enclosed area so you can find those if you do lose them. Okay, we pop the back plate on and it is finally all snapped together. Now when we reassemble, there we go, our generation 3. Now, just to see that everything is in there, we'll do the same thing that we did to diagnose this. We'll press down on our striker safety plunger and allow the striker to move. And we'll push up and down on the face here of the striker. And we'll look into the breech face. And yep, we can see our striker poking out at us. So once again, from another angle, we're pressing down on our striker safety plunger. And we're actuating forward and back this leg of the striker in order to see the striker actually poke out of the breech face. With the striker replaced, everything is replaced. The sleeve, the cups, the spring, the striker itself. So you should have a factory reset, essentially, on the fire control group as far as the slide is concerned. You should be getting a good ignition on primers as long as your slide is completely in battery, right? So in battery is when the slide is fully forward and the barrel is locked up into the slide. Out of battery is this, or even this. Or of course this, out of battery. Alright, I hope that helped.